Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today, I'm really excited. I have my new friend, Alison Ver Halen, with me. And Alison, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you do and what is a content marketer?
Yeah, a content. I like to say I write the words that go onto your website to tell everyone who you are, what you do, and why we should all care. And there's a lot that goes into that. There's, figuring out what sets you apart from your competition. So there's the marketing strategy part of it, figuring out who your ideal client is, identifying that buyer journey so that we can create content that leads them through that buyer journey. And then there's also the SEO aspect, because it's so much easier to convert leads who are actively looking for you than walking up to Joe Schmo on the street and trying to convince him why he needs your stuff when he has no idea who you are, what you do, or why he should care. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what I do. Content marketing is much broader than that. It does encompass things like social media and video and lots of things that I don't do. I do the website content, blogs, landing pages, sales pages, bios, and then email marketing.
I love that. And I just want to rewind to that piece because I think I would fundamentally say, if I'm being 100% honest, I've got a long career as a coach, consultant, and even as an accountant. I think that the number one reason people fail in business is they can't answer those three questions. Mm-hmm. So when I actually saw somebody who said, I'm a tactician. If somebody says they're a strategist, fire them and run like hell. And I went, wait a minute. That feels backwards to me. Thoughts, Alison?
Yeah, well, and that is funny because so many people talk about they say they're implementing strategy when what they mean is tactics. It is something where it gets used interchangeably because people don't really understand the difference. The strategy is what's guiding you. So I like to talk about it. You're going on a road trip, you're going to map out where you're going, right? It's not, I'm going to get in the car and eventually I'll end up in Door County, Wisconsin, right? It's like, you need to know which highways you're going to take and when to get off, and you need a plan. So the strategy is, here's how we're getting from point A to point B. The tactics are you getting in the car and starting the car and making sure it's full of gas. And it's the checklist that you need to do to implement the strategy.
Well, and again, road trip without snacks is a cardinal sin, but
we tend to not do, it depends on how long the road trip is. When my dad and I go up to Door County, we don't bring snacks. We use that as an excuse to stop at Starbucks. And we have to refuel and make sure the dogs get a pee break and all that good stuff.
Love it. But I think that's the piece. I attribute a quote, and I've heard it attributed to Sun Tzu. It sounds like something he would say, but it's strategy without tactics is the slowest path to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so you and I, believe it or not, I think we could just talk about the three questions because genuinely, if somebody can answer those three questions, I actually had somebody said, well, would you be quiet and give me something to do? I need a marketing plan. And I'm like, no, you want marketing tactics.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the who first of all, because I like to start with who, because honestly, if I can't get the who, everything else is fuzzy. And it's kind of like going to the optometrist and they go, what's better, A or B? They're the same. No, they're not. So how do you figure out who somebody serves? And really, truly, give me your gut reaction to I serve everyone.
I hate the I serve everyone. And I shouldn't say I hate it. I have a lot of sympathy for it because I remember my early days as an entrepreneur trying to build my business and trying to be all, I can serve everyone and everyone needs blogging. And to be fair, yes, everyone does need blogging. That doesn't mean I should be the one to do it for all of them. So I think what made it clear to me was because I do a lot of networking, and someone explained it as far as, I'm meeting Jeff for the first time here. Jeff, who can I introduce you to? Oh, I help everyone who does this thing or everyone who needs this thing. Yeah. I know a lot of people. I have more than 2,000 LinkedIn connections and even more people that I know that I'm not connected to on LinkedIn. So with that network, you're not helping me narrow it down at all. Whereas if you narrow it down as far as I'm looking to work with professionals in this area who are struggling with this problem, great. Now, struggling with this problem, that could be a little harder depending on who you're talking to, because as we were talking about before we went live or started recording, is the fact that there are certain problems people don't talk about. There are certain problems. Yes, ever. There are certain problems people talk about with certain people, but they're not going to go out and advertise that they're struggling with this certain people. So understanding who your power partners are and understanding, I need to talk to these people because they see the problem or they're hearing about this problem. So introduce me to this person so they can introduce me to my ideal client.
I love that. And I do want to bring this back to networking because I think it's a very powerful thing. If you say everyone, our brains are literally blank slate.
It's just overloaded.
We can't process, and I immediately go to planet Earth and I look out from the orbit view and I'm like, oh my God. And our brains just shut down and walk out of the building.
Yeah.
Whereas I have exactly, I believe in my brain, 3 little hooks. And if you give me a title or a problem or something clear, my brain goes, oh, I can put Alison on this hook and introduce her to these 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you don't do that, and one of the things I find is a lot of entrepreneurs want to be clever and they want to be inclusive. And it's like writing blog posts, that's a big thing. Mm-hmm. But if you say, I write blog posts for local bricks and mortar law firms, I'm not kidding. I actually used to joke about left-handed dentists. That's a thing. And they have their own society.
Yeah. See? It's
like,
there's another saying that the riches are in the niches, which I think people dismiss too quickly. And it's because it is so much easier to identify, what you do and who you help and who I can introduce you to if you make that really specific. I always go back to the financial planning example because it's a perfect example because I network with a lot of them, and a lot of them, their intro goes in one ear and out the other. I didn't even hear it. And then there's one I work with who works specifically with women going through divorce. And it's like, that is specific. All right. Someone I know is getting divorced and she's kind of worried about her financial plan. All right. I can introduce you to Beth over here. So that is a great example of so many of them. It's just more white noise.
Yeah. Clarity is everything. And so what are some of the things you wish people knew about their persona or avatar or, I just call it who because most people understand that simple word, but what do you wish they understood?
Yeah, well, and it keeps changing. Lately, it's been ICP for ideal client profile. And I'm like, what happened to marketing persona? That's the word I've been using for years now. Now I have to use that. More jargon, just what the world needs, more jargon. So ideal client profile, marketing persona, avatar is another one that I haven't heard in a while. Yeah, it keeps changing. It's basically who is the person that you really want to work with and that really wants to work with you, can really benefit from your services. And as far as what I wish people knew about that, it's so much more than, again, you and I were talking about this before we started recording. It's not just age and gender. That's a good start. But that's kind of like, if you invite me to a birthday party, right? And you're like, this person lives here and this is how old they're turning. And it's, a woman. Okay. I have no idea what to buy that person. If you tell me about her hobbies, her interests, the books she likes to read, the shows she watches, the people she follows online, now I have a clearer idea of who this woman is and what interests her. Now I can go out and start thinking about presents to buy for her. That is so much of what makes a marketing profile sing, that ICP. is really understanding them as people. And a good marketing persona should be fleshed out as far as it's not just the demographics. It's this is the problem. This is how they're looking for solutions to that problem. This is how they're talking about the problem. This is who they're talking about the problem with. It's figuring out all of that so that you can create content that answers those questions. So when they're out there looking for you, they're going to find your content.
I love that. And I think a lot of people miss the fact, again, and I see this in networking all the time, a client is a client is a client. No. Just as a weird example, if I say I'm looking for a plumber, great. Okay, is that for your house or for your office? Okay, that's different than I need a plumber. And I think a lot of people think, again, I'll keep it open. Well, I want the guy who specializes in residential plumbing, not the guy who's going to come to my house and say, where's the rest of the high rise? You want the people who know. And one of the greatest gifts I believe we can give ourselves is that clarity. And once we give that clarity to ourselves, we can tell it to other people.
Absolutely. Everything gets so much easier when you narrow down who it is you work with. And I know that's counterintuitive because we want to think we can work with everyone, but it's actually going to be so much more beneficial when you narrow it down.
Well, and I like to say that, you can't say the right thing to the wrong people, but if you whisper in the ear of the right person, they're going to come running. They will find you.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who he claims the title of marketer, but I don't judge him. But he's always talking about chasing the next client, and I'm like, do you understand what the word marketing means? That's business development, maybe outbound lead generation, cold calling, or something. But I believe, and I want your beliefs here, Alison, that good marketing is an invitation to have a dialogue, not, hey, you're not that crazy person back in the day when they used to stand on the street corners in New York and they'd open their jacket and, hey, you want to buy a watch?
Yeah, I always think of it like a magnet, or like a magnet, right? You're going to draw people to you, and you're going to draw the right people to you. Good marketing should do that. When you're doing outbound, you have to talk to a lot of people who have no interest in talking to you. You have to explain who you are, what you do, the benefits you provide, why they should care, why they should work with you over someone else. Good marketing should, and you have to do that with every single person you talk to. Whereas with marketing, you create that content that already has a lot of those conversations before they ever get on the phone with you. So like you said, it's an invitation, but it's also about nurturing and educating those leads. So by the time they get on the phone with you, they're already a high quality lead. They already understand, oh man, Jeff really knows his stuff. And I can tell by all this awesome content that he has that he's the real deal. He's the one I want to work with. And it's amazing. Again, we were talking about the ideal client profile. Understanding their language is going to be key to that, and making sure that your brand shines through in a way that relates to them. Because if you're using, I use swearing as an example. I was talking to one client who, we're on this call and we're talking about, and he's swearing left and right. And then he's like, I don't want any swear words on my website. I'm like, dude, you work with lawyers. Like, most lawyers, for those of you who don't know, are potty mouths. So they're going to see that on your website and they're going to be like, oh, he's real. Like John, It doesn't hold back. He's the real deal. Okay. And the people who don't want that are going to be like, no, thank you. And they're going to turn away. And that's not who you want to work with anyway. So that's a perfect example of drawing the right people to you while letting the wrong people walk away. That's what good marketing should do, is let the wrong people know that they're the wrong people, so you don't have to waste time on a call with them.
And I think that honestly is I'm fascinated by it. Why would you want somebody to wait in line to talk to you that doesn't want or need what you have?
Exactly.
And again, I think clarity is this wonderful gift because It is, and by the way, I used to read Dan Kennedy a lot, and I always got confused by. He has a quote: "If you haven't offended anybody by noon, you're not marketing hard enough." And I took it as a mean thing, and then I went, "Oh, he doesn't mean you're not calling somebody out and saying, hey, you're something. It's you're not part of this. You don't. It's." Like the old days with P.T. Barnum at the circus. Either you want to go see this thing or you don't, but describing it clearly so people can go, oh, I want to see the strong man. Oh, I don't want to see that or whatever. But, helping people come in, the right people will come in the door and stand in line. I don't want to go to the mall and stand in a line for 10 hours thinking I'm buying an Android, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm at the Apple store. Whoops.
Yeah. Well, and I think the word offended is one that has been so overused because that's not really what he's talking about. He's talking about, you got to get people to turn away. But again, marketing, getting people's attention, that's a word that will get people's attention and be like, what do you mean I should be offending people? And now they're going to read more about the book, aren't they?
Yeah. And I think that's now a good transition. And you used one of my favorite phrases, so I'm going to pull it out. I'm obsessed with the customer journey. And I personally, again, if I don't know who's in the car with me, how do I know what music to have, what destination? So let's talk about the customer journey and what does it mean to you? Because again, it's another one of those buzzwords that, the people who don't understand marketing still use. And it's like, oh, sweetie, I need to sit you down.
Yeah, I don't think people often understand how early the customer journey starts, because it does tend to start with, it could start with the very beginning of this, you asked me, what is content marketing? There are a lot of people out there asking, what is content marketing, right? They're in the awareness stages. They're not looking for a content marketer. They're not going to hire me, at least not yet. They're just like, there's this thing. Do I need to know about this thing? What do I need to know about this thing? Is it cool? Is it boring? Is it what is this? They're just dipping their toes in the water. And then if they see something they like, maybe it comes up in a conversation a few weeks later, or maybe they see something because, we all know the algorithm. They looked at an article and then Facebook goes, hey, there's this thing on content marketing. Now they're exploring, they're reading more content, maybe watching some videos, listening to some podcasts. They're starting to educate themselves and get more information about it. And if they have a problem and they're listening and consuming this content that's like, there's a solution to this problem, we can help you with this, then they're going to move into, okay, maybe I should start thinking about either doing content marketing myself or hiring a content marketer or having my assistant do it, or, whatever that next step is. So now they're in the consideration stages and they're thinking about buying. And that's hopefully when they're reaching out to you, because all that content they've been consuming has been by you or about you or with you, guesting on whatever. So that's a great way to, but it starts by capturing them early in the buyer journey, or at least it used to. We are seeing that shift with AI. I think that's the biggest shift that AI is bringing us. Everyone wants to say, Google is dead. No one's searching anymore. It's all about getting the chatbots to mention you. I'm like, well, if the chatbots mention you when someone's looking up what is content marketing, and they go, well, Alison Ver Halen said such and such, and they go, great. And they go back to their day. They're not going to remember my name. They're not going to click through to my website. So lately and I used to really focus on the early stages of the buyer journey and nurturing those leads. Now it's more of a mid to late stage of the buyer journey. That's when people are going to be actually taking that initiative to click through to a website and maybe download your lead magnet or sign up for your webinar or whatever that lead magnet is, that gets them onto your list so you can grab their attention and keep nurturing them until they are ready to buy.
Well, and one thing I'd add, and I'm fascinated by this, is people will come out and, oh, you visited our website. Here, can we do a demo? And by the way, I get this a lot on LinkedIn in my DMs. People will reach out and go, do you want a demo of whatever software? And I'm like, it depends. What does it do? Who are you? Why are you reaching me?
Yeah.
And I'm now fascinated. So you and I are going to have some fun with this. I'm fascinated by the concept of permission, because you come at me too hard too soon,
Mm-hmm.
my defenses go up, and you're not now knocking on my front door. You're trying to invade a castle that's heavily fortified, and I got a lot of ammo in the back here. So
You're climbing in through the window. Yeah.
yeah, and I have no problem putting the security settings on high so that maybe you get a little zap or a jolt, because I think a lot of people presume too much too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big difference between I'm looking to see, somebody saying, what can a blog do for me, versus which blog content creator can help me the most.
Yes, there's a big difference. There's a lot of buyer journey there in between.
And again, I always say, I feel like you just proposed to me and now you're trying to put a bag over my head and abduct me. Like, give me a minute to say, who are you?
So that's funny that you said propose, because my analogy is always when people try to go for the hard sell early in the buyer journey, I'm like, this is our first date and you're proposing. Like, put on the brakes. This is way too much, way too fast.
Yeah.
Maybe let's
Yeah.
see if a second date is in order.
Well, and the funny thing, I also tell people, I use the analogy a lot, because the day I decided to propose to my now wife, we've been together 20 some years, I didn't have a list of people I was going to make the rounds to that day and say, will you marry me? Oh, no. Okay, next. I tailored the proposal to her. And had she said no, I don't know what I would have done. Obviously, she said yes. But the reality is that's what most people do in marketing is, hey, you want to get married? Nope. Okay, how about you? How about you? And you've left a group of people going, who was that weird?
Yeah.
And I see that at networking too. They're the ones who walk in and they deal their business cards out like blackjack. And it's like, who is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And sadly, it's almost always the people in the industries like, sorry, but real estate, wealth management, mortgage brokers, who are a commodity, and they stay a commodity because they don't stop and say, I have one who helps recently divorced women find their next home for their family. That's very different than I sell houses.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So the customer journey, by the way, Alison, we may have to do a 4-part mini series, you and I, because
I would love to. I could talk about this all day.
I'm going to introduce you a couple of people that it's weird, but when marketers get this sequence, it is funny because they all want to talk to each other because they're so tired of hearing about it from others who don't understand.
Yeah.
But people ask me all the time, well, what else can you teach me? And I'm like, if you haven't learned about your avatar, or your persona, or profile, I'm not talking to you about anything else, because till we get that right, everything else is wasted. And again, if I say, oh, I'm designing a customer journey, who's the customer? I don't know. Everybody. Well, is that a plane, a train, an automobile?
Yeah.
It's a very different journey. If I'm going to get to Maui, very different journey if somebody's in Chicago versus somebody's in Honolulu, or quite frankly on Maui already. And I think that's the key, is people just treat all journeys like the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we're going to get to my favorite. So I am a Simon Sinek worshiper, and I believe we should all be a little more cynical, not cynical, but cynical. I believe in starting with why, but it's as long as it's in the top 3, I don't care where we start. But you said it so well. Why should someone else care? Please elaborate, because I do not get a good answer to that most of the time, and I feel it's so important.
It is, and it's because we're all in the weeds. Like, I remember, I think even still, people ask me, why should I be blogging? And my brain gets overloaded with so many reasons that I kind of freeze. So I get it, but at the same time, you have to understand that other people don't understand the benefits that you provide. And so as someone who gets in the weeds, and we're in it all day, every day, we want to talk about all the cool stuff we can do. Apple is genius at this, right? Apple could go on and tell you about all the different cool features that their phone has, and you don't freaking care. But if they go, look, you can call someone, and while you're on the phone with Jeff, you can be like, I don't think that's right, Jeff. Let me look that up. And without doing anything different, just look it up and be like, yeah, no, Jeff, you're full of BS. It's right here. I just saw it, right? So the ability to do that is like, oh, that's really cool. That is I don't know if it's a problem. It was certainly a frustration that I had. So when they introduced that, I was like, yes.
Well, so, going back to the good old days when they came out with the iPod, 10,000 songs in your pocket.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I don't care about disk space. I don't care about the features, functions. Mm-hmm. I don't care the name of the engineer or what they have for breakfast. I want to carry 10,000 songs.
Yeah, and Kindle has been doing a lot of the same. They're like, you can have this many books everywhere you go. It's like, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, I want that. It's like, yeah, like you said, gigabytes or whatever, that doesn't really mean anything to me, but telling me how many books or how many songs I can carry around, okay, that does sound really cool.
And I think that's what's missed so often in marketing is the why should I care? I mean, again, I get a lot of pitches where I'm looking at it going, you're a nice person. I want to help you, but I don't care. And they're like, but we've got, this software and we use this authentication. And I'm like, I still don't care. But, if you understand what pain it solves of mine, then we're going to have a very different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. My pet peeve at the moment is AI, because everything is AI and everyone wants to talk about stuff being AI powered. And they're like, it's AI powered. Okay, so what? And they can't answer the so what. They're just like, it's AI powered. Don't you want AI? I mean, sometimes it depends. What is it doing for me?
I'm going to admit, Alison, when I first started going down the road of AI, I was AI this, AI that. And I'm like, again, I didn't hire a plumber because I liked his particular brand of tools. So I'm not in the yellow pages going plumber with whatever Makita or something. I just went plumber who fixes plumbing, and that was the aha moment was I care deeply about AI. Nobody else does. Again, they care about whatever problem they solve. And that's, I think a lot of entrepreneurs get really, really nerded out about, oh, I can do this and then I can do this. Again, what's the problem? Who's the audience? Why do they care? And again, I got a toilet leaking and my basement's flooding. I don't want to filter through your website and try to figure out, do you fix toilets? That should be taught. Mm-hmm. Call me when your basement's flooding, period.
Okay, basement's flooding, let's go.
Yeah, and by the way, different plumbers deal with different types of basement flooding. So
that's good to know.
So clarity matters. All right, now I'm going to ask the hardest question of the show. So let's talk about who would come and work with you, what their pain is, and let's bring it all together. And then I'm going to ask, where can people go to connect with you and learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah, so I specifically work with attorneys and financial planners. And as far as the problem I solve for them, I make them look awesome online. I create content that draws people to them. Again, that awesome SEO. We got to make sure people are actively seeking you and they're finding you, because if they're searching and they're finding someone else, you've already lost them. So I incorporate the SEO as well as the marketing strategy. What makes you different from the million and one other attorneys or the billion and one other financial planners out there? And communicating that differentiator as well as who they work with, so that their content, again, educates their audience. They're not stuck on phone calls with people who are like, well, I can just do this myself, right? It's like,
Yeah.
no. By the time people get through your content and finally reach out to you, they're going to be like, oh, I need you. I already know I need you. Just tell me where to sign. Just tell me how much it's going to cost. Send me the contract. I'm ready. Or
Yeah.
if they're not quite at that point, they're a lot closer to that point than an unqualified lead who's like, I don't know, I did a quick Google search and you popped up, or my friend recommended you, but I don't really think I need a lawyer. I can just represent myself, right? Like, let's make sure you're not talking to those people, and make sure you spend more time talking to the qualified leads so your sales are faster and easier.
I love that. And I think I would double down on that because it pains me when a lot of good professionals, and lawyers and accountants are my people, they expect somebody told them that, marketing should be this much effort, sales should be this much effort. I love a quote by Steve Jobs, of all people. More or less, he said, the job of good marketing is to make sales unnecessary or redundant. And as a trained in the background of salesperson, I live for that day, because I don't want lawyers and accountants to have to learn how to be good at sales. They should just be good at what they do and let the good marketing do the work for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree with that.
And by the way, I'm fascinated by a lot of professionals, because they'll list out the forms they can complete. And just, it pains me when I look at professionals' websites and I'm like, I don't know what form I need to fill out. I'm going to pay you, so you fill out the form. I just know, again, I'm looking for a patent lawyer, I'm looking for copyright, whatever it is. Don't make me guess what you do, because I will guess who the next person is faster than you. So
yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Now, final question. So what's the best place if people want to see your work in action, or just, you're a fabulous human, so they want to connect with you and say, Alison, here's a boatload of money, can you help me? Where do they go to do that?
My bank account number is, no, I'm kidding. My website, my website is AV, as in my initials, Alison Ver Halen. So that is avwritingservices.com. You can reach me directly at info@avwritingservices.com. LinkedIn, Alison Ver Halen. I think I'm the only Alison Ver Halen on there. And YouTube, Alison Ver Halen, content marketer.
I love it. So I'm going to help Alison out a little. I have a friend who's a YouTube guru. Don't just go search her name and let the algorithm take you there, because it helps her a lot. But I'm going to make it easy. I don't care about the LinkedIn algorithm. So if anybody wants to connect with Alison, I'm connected with her. I will make sure you are easy to find on LinkedIn. So Alison, I will have you back. You and I are going to have I think we're going to have to do a summit or a conference just on avatars, because, man, it's needed.
It is the most important part of your marketing. Like, everything has to start with your brand and your avatar. Get those nailed down first. Don't do anything else until you have those nailed down. And then everything else needs to build off of that.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking time to hang out with me today. And I look forward to sharing this with my connections.
Thanks so much for having me. This was great.